Welcome to SMEX Ed. Class is in session.
I'm your host, Amanda King, and I'm here to teach anybody who wants to fucking listen how to have the audacity to say fuck it to societal standards and live their most authentic life. This podcast is dedicated to bringing the sexual conversations we have behind doors onto the main fucking stage. Because sex, masturbation, squirting, guess what? It is all normal. And by bringing these conversations to the forefront, we help people feel less alone in this world. We help them feel safe. We help them gain their power back. We help them step into their confidence and express themselves sexually in this world unapologetically. Because it takes fucking audacity to be your truest self. And we have a boatloads of audacity all up in this bitch. So let me ask you this. Are you ready for some epic shit?
Hello, everybody. I'm excited to talk about this topic today because I haven't spoken about this topic in a really long time, and it was the topic that really kind of advanced my following on a lot of my platforms, and that's dirty talk, and more specifically, how to become comfortable with initiating dirty talk with your partner and how to just vocalize your wants, your needs, and your desires. And I haven't spoken about it in a really long time on this platform and on this podcast. And lately, my DMs have been blowing up with people asking questions about dirty talk, like this one I got recently on Snapchat. She said, "So I get really awkward when trying to communicate about sex. Or during sex, like my worst fear is dirty talk during sex because I'm absolutely horrible at it. I'm so shy, and I think a lot of it comes from being self-conscious, but I feel like there's more to it. Do you know how I could work past that?" And there are so many people in this world who want to explore and experiment with dirty talk, but they're very shy and they feel like it's going to be very awkward. And so I want to talk about a few different things on this episode. I want to talk about why it is so scary to open yourself up to dirty talk because it takes a level of vulnerability. I want to talk about the distinction between dirty talk via text messaging and dirty talk in the bedroom, because I think that people see a lot of the reels I put out, which is like dirty talk text messaging, and they see these huge paragraphs and they think, I can't say that in the bedroom. But there's a huge distinction between dirty talk for foreplay versus dirty talk actually during the act of sex. I want to talk about how you as a human being can become more comfortable about expressing and vocalizing your wants, your desires, and your needs during sex and just what feels good. And I want to talk about, if you were someone, which I receive a lot of messages of, wanting your partner to be more vocal during sex, how you can help encourage them and make them feel more comfortable with opening up themselves sexually. So let's just kind of fucking dive into it because it's going to be a long episode, so buckle up. So let's talk about why people become so self-conscious with dirty talk. One, as a society, we are brought up thinking sex is super taboo, especially from a female standpoint of growing up in a society that often shames women exploring their sexuality in any way, especially on their own, right? Because our sexual desires and wants are supposed to be tied to a man. And so a lot of women truly struggle with the fact that they need to vocalize what feels good to them to their partners. It requires such a level of vulnerability from any person to openly express their sexual desires on a like intimate, there we go, level with a partner. And like I said, that's because we're all conditioned to believe that sex is dirty and that we're not supposed to talk about it. And if we do talk about it, it's supposed to be behind closed doors. And we're not supposed to vocalize it, because if men vocalize it, they're over sexualizing women. And if women vocalize it, it means they're being whores, right? We get so much conditioning and just shame that is built around it. So being comfortable enough to open yourself up sexually and express your wants and desires to a partner is something that is very, very vulnerable. So my biggest piece of advice is recognizing that vulnerability as something that's truly powerful rather than something that is weak or makes you scared. Because whenever you explore a new topic or a new, I guess, topic sexually, right? A new position, a new way of doing things, when a new kink, a new fetish, It is all so vulnerable because you are opening yourself up to rejection to an extent. You are opening yourself up to another person, which is never fucking easy. Even if we take it out of the bedroom, vulnerability is something that every single person on this planet struggles with, because vulnerability is not something that is taught to us, right? It's actually tried to basically be beaten out of us. And so to be a vulnerable person is no small feat. So to open yourself up sexually and to be able to express your wants and desires is a very vulnerable topic. And vulnerable, it's just vulnerable on a soul level. So recognize that it's okay to be vulnerable. And this is something, dirty talk or exploring this in a bedroom, it may be something that you want to focus on just doing it with the right partner at first rather than any partner. And I say that because it already is vulnerable. And at the beginning, it can feel a little awkward when you are dirty talking with someone. So you want to be able to have a level of trust and connection with the person that you are exploring this realm with, because you don't want to open yourself up to feedback during this time, or especially negative feedback. And there are people out in this world who just aren't the nicest people. And so if you are participating in dirty talk with someone, make sure that you really trust them and that you have a level of connection with them that makes you feel safe in doing so, because you should feel safe. You should never be coerced or manipulated into dirty talk. You should feel good about doing it. You should feel empowered doing it. So make sure that you are just participating in this with someone who recognizes the vulnerability that you are putting out there, who you trust to receive that vulnerability, and someone you feel connected to on a level that just makes you feel safe and secure, so that when you say things that are your true fucking carnal desires, you know that they're just landing well with the other person, that they're not judging you, that they're not thinking anything about you except for, I love that they're expressing ourselves. So a lot of people aren't confident in this type of exploration because we're not meant to talk about sex. And so talking about sex is taboo and it's scary. And so we need to recognize that this is going to be a little awkward at first when we are starting to explore the realm of dirty talk, but that awkwardness will like surely fade, and it will fade fairly quickly the more versed you get in being able to express yourself sexually. So let's talk about the difference between dirty talk during sex and dirty talk via foreplay, because they are very different. Now, I post reels on Facebook a lot about messages to initiate dirty talk on a foreplay level. When we are talking about dirty talk on a foreplay level, I am talking like sexy text messages, I am talking like sexy voice notes, stuff that you are using to initiate the sex act later with your partner. So when we are talking about dirty talk via text, I always say it's more about being longer and more detailed in your descriptions. So first and foremost, if you're dirty talking with a partner, you need to address certain terminology. And what I mean by this is a lot of women are turned off by dirty talk, not by the act itself, but by how men present dirty talk. And what I mean by that is men tend to be more visual and graphic creatures. Women tend to be more poetic and sensual. So a lot of women have tried participating in dirty talk where a partner has used terms of their body in a graphic nature. And I'm going to get graphic here. So please bear with me. If you have kids in the vicinity, you might want to put headphones on right now, because we're going to say a lot of quote unquote dirty words. So men tend to present dirty talk from this level of almost aggressive graphic nature of, I want to stick my hard cock in your soaking wet pussy. And I guarantee half of my female audience who listened to me just say that just cringed inside, because women tend to be more poetic and sensual with their language, meaning they don't want to hear you be super aggressive with your description of what you're wanting to do with them. This is called dirty talking to the female gaze. Now, and gaze, I mean Gaze. So this is how women perceive sexuality. Male gaze is more graphic focused, while female gaze is more sensuality, feelings, intuition focused. And so men will come to dirty talk thinking, okay, well, she's going to love that I call her pussy a pussy. That is not the case. Some women don't like you referring to their body parts as those graphic words. So, for example, rather than saying something like, I want to feel your pussy, some women may prefer saying, I want to be inside of you. I want to feel you. Do you hear the difference? Poetic, sensual versus super graphic. So when we are having conversations of dirty talk with partners, we need to get on the same fucking page of what we like hearing during dirty talk, because we never want to make someone uncomfortable and we never want to cause cringy moments. And cringy moments happen because we don't have these discussions before we get into the act of dirty talk. Now, when we're texting with men, they tend to be very short with their details, saying stuff like, I want to stick my hard fucking cock and you're soaking wet pussy, where women want a little bit more descriptive details. We want you to take your time with dirty talk. We don't want you to go right for the hole, because society is a penetration focused society, right? And so a lot of dirty talk men focus on the pussy or the ass or whatever hole they can stick their dick in, while women want more of that teasing, that build up, right? And even when we talk about turning women on versus turning men on, men can turn on fairly quickly. Women, it takes about 20 to 40 minutes to become fully aroused. So dirty talk can be used to your advantage if you're doing it right with a partner, meaning getting on the same page about the language and the vernacular that you guys are going to use during dirty talk. So if your partner hates the word pussy, don't ever use the word pussy in describing it. If your partner says, I like more sensual, poetic talk, don't sit here and come in with graphic, like hot, wet, warm, soaking, moist. Don't use the word moist. A lot of women hate that word. So figure out what language works best for you. And like I said, this may be a little awkward at first to have this discussion, but trust me, it's better to have the discussion ahead of time than be in the middle of a texting session and all of a sudden your partner says the word pussy and it pulls you completely out of the moment and you're just done. Like, there's nothing worse than when someone says something really fucking terrible during dirty talk and it ruins the whole mood for both people. So having these conversations are going to be key. Being a little bit more detailed, gentlemen, in your dirty talk, will help, what's the word, will help build the anticipation with your partner. So like maybe saying something along these lines: the thought of being inside of you right now is making me ridiculously hard. I cannot wait till I get home to touch every inch of your glorious body. The thought of tasting you right now is driving me absolutely wild. I cannot wait till I can come home and just be with you, until I can feel you, until I'm deep inside of you. Do you see the difference? That is so unbelievably sexy. And I didn't use a single graphic term in that. That is dirty talking to the female gaze. It is focusing on sensuality and poeticness and just words and anticipation and feeling rather than really graphic language. So first, you want to be able to distinct whether or not your partner likes that. And there are women out there that like a little bit of both. Like, I personally love poetic language, but sometimes I also like the more graphic dirty talk, depending on the person that I am dirty talking with. If I trust them and we've been doing it for a while, I don't mind when they get really graphic with me because I like it. I'm comfortable with them. So it may just take some time to build up to that moment where you can have dirty talk where it's a little bit of both, where it is more flowy and poetic, but it's also a bit more graphic and in your face. Both are acceptable, both are okay. Now, when we're talking about dirty talk via text, like I said, it's longer and descriptive. Now, this is what the discorrelation, I don't even know if that's a fucking word, we're going with it. This is where people tend to kind of get a little in their head with dirty talk. We think these dirty talk via foreplay is the same as dirty talk during sex. Dirty talk during sex shouldn't be a full monologue by you describing what you're doing with your partner. A lot of times when people say, I want to explore dirty talk in the bedroom, it's more of, I want to be able to vocalize what feels good and what feels good to you during sex. not sitting here and going through all these descriptive paragraphs. It's more of open up and tell me what feels good so that we can talk through this and we're more engaged and it's not silent. And I know what you want, what you desire, and I can continue to do it. So, sex dirty talk is more based on feeling, it's more in the moment, it's less thought and more just being intimate and describing in that moment what feels good on that intimacy level. So, sitting here and saying, "You feel so good inside of me," or something as simple as, like, "My God, you're the best kisser." That is vocalizing what feels good, i.e., going to turn your partner on because you're vocalizing what they are doing to you and how it feels to you. That is what dirty talk during sex is all about. It's being in the moment and just saying, "This feels good," or "I like this," or even talking to your partner about how they can speed up or they can slow down or they can go slower, faster, harder, softer in order to make you come faster. So, when we are talking about getting vocal during sex, this is also something that a lot of people feel awkward with. So, we're going to talk to the people who feel awkward first about vocalizing themselves during sex. The reason you feel awkward is because society has told you that you are not allowed to express yourself sexually. So, you have to recognize that society is wrong and you have the right to express what you want and what you desire sexually. Now, the first thing you need to do as someone who is a little nervous about vocalizing themselves during sex is ask yourself, what do I want? What do I desire during sex? And if you don't know that, this is the time for self exploration. One of the best ways to find out what you physically like during sex is through self pleasure. And even being able to explore your body and vocalize what feels good during self pleasure will help you vocalize during sex. So, as you are using a toy or you're using your hand or whatever you're doing, when you're going through it, start kind of saying out loud how it feels during masturbation. So being able to go, "Oh my God, that feels so good. Oh my God, I need more. Oh my God, yes, keep going, keep going." You're in a way dirty talking to yourself. This is going to get you more comfortable with vocalizing what you want and what you desire and what feels good during sex. It always starts and ends with you, right? And we'll often look to our partners to solve our problems and or to kind of carry the weight that we can't, but that's not their job. What our job is to get ourselves known on a personal, deep sexual level, and then to be able to communicate that to our partners. So during masturbation, this is a time where you get to know your body and explore your body and then start kind of talking out loud while you do it. So sitting here and like pinching your nipple, right? And sitting here and going, "Oh my God, that feels so good. I like that." That's vocalizing, right? You may not think of it as dirty talk in the sense of like, "Oh, well, you're not saying stick this and stick that." But what you're doing is you are vocalizing what you like, which is considered dirty talk, which is sexually arousing to a partner. So touching your body and vocalizing it out loud to yourself. If you're using a toy and the toy feels good, saying out loud, "That feels good." This is also um in a way vocalizing how good it feels during masturbation as well without words and just moans and gasps and just breathing, right? A lot of times or often the beginning of self pleasure will be very quiet because we don't want other people to hear and we like it's a little shameful. It's not shameful at all, right? And the more you're able to vocalize with yourself on a self pleasure level, the more you're going to understand your body, what makes it tick, what makes it come, and then the more you're going to be able to bring that into the bedroom and be able to vocalize that with your partner. So practice saying it out loud and getting comfortable with it. Another way of practicing, and I know this sounds kind of weird in a way, is looking in a mirror and just saying what you want and what you desire in a mirror. So sitting there and saying, like, looking at yourself and being like, "I want you to bend me over and just fuck me really hard." And you may be like, "Oh my God, that's too graphic." That's okay. You don't have to say that. It can be as simple as like, "I want you to bend me over. Can you fuck me from behind? Can you have sex with me from behind? I want to be on top. Can we try this?" when you're able to watch yourself do it, you get more comfortable with your facial expressions. You get more comfortable with just saying it out loud. Remember, this is a practice of saying it out loud. The more you say it out loud, the more comfortable you become, the less cringy it is. And at first, it may feel a little cringy. And this is why when you are practicing it in front of a mirror and looking at your facial expressions, if you cringe and you're like, you scrunch your nose and you're like, oh God, no, 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 I hate that, I hate that. Then you know you don't like that. And that's something you can let your partner know. And then you can also think of, okay, well, if that felt uncomfortable, if sitting here and saying, fuck me from behind, while bent over a couch or a bed makes you cringe and you're like, that's too graphic, what's another way you could say it? That you're comfortable and confident enough to say it. Do you want to say, I want to make love? I want you to bend me over. I would like to feel you from behind. Any of those can work. It's more about feeling through what makes you comfortable, because the more comfortable you are, the more self-confident you're going to be in order to express your desires. Now, how do you bring this into sex? Because when you're by yourself and you're in the act, it's very different sometimes. Sometimes there's a lot of pressure. You feel like you need to perform, and then you get into your head about things. That's the biggest thing I always receive from people is I get into my head during sex about dirty talk. So let me simplify how it can work for you. So rather than focusing on me sitting here and thinking of all of these really dirty things to say during sex, I'm just going to vocalize what feels good. So if I'm on top and I am riding my partner and it feels really good, all I'm going to say is, I love the way you feel inside of me, or this feels so good, or, oh my God, I love this. Keep going. Right? These are small little things that you can start saying during sex that take the pressure off of you to create some kind of fucking fantasy or scenario in your head and just get really intimate in the moment and be able to vocalize what you want in life. And during that session, during that session. So sitting here, if you are even in missionary, right? And it feels really good, but you may want him to go a little deeper, say a little deeper, slow down, thrust harder. These are all ways of vocalizing during sex. We always think of dirty talk being something like, oh my God, I love the way your pussy feels right now, or I love the way you feel inside of me, or I can't wait to go deeper. And it is. But at the beginning, that can feel very fucking daunting. So just taking it down a notch and just being like, I'm going to say out loud what feels good. Like I said before, if your partner is a really good kisser, I love the way you kiss me. I love the way you taste is another one. If you're going down on them and you want to add a little bit, or I love how you feel in my mouth. Or the easiest one is, how does that feel, baby? Do you like that? Does that feel good? All of these are ways to just vocalize what you're doing during sex that is going to make your partner feel like you are more engaged during sex. The biggest thing about dirty talk, I think, is that a lot of people just don't want silent sex. They want a partner who's going to say, yes, that feels good. They're going to want a partner who moans when it feels good, and not fake moans, because we're not here to be like, when it doesn't feel good. But if it feels good, don't be afraid to vocalize it either. Don't keep your moans or your grunts or your don't keep them silent. Allow yourself to express them out loud, because that's what your partner wants to hear. Because think of sex as such a vulnerable act between two people, and nothing is more awkward during sex than if you don't know if your partner is enjoying it. So if your partner, and the way we don't know if our partner is enjoying it is if they're quiet and they're not vocalizing it and they're just kind of standing there or laying there or whatever, and they're not telling you that they're in the moment. So even during sexual positions, when I'm with my partner, if we switch up a sexual position, I'll be like, how does that feel? Do you like it? Why? Because if he's being quiet, I don't know if he likes that position. It may feel great for me, but I want to make sure that he's on the same page and this is working for both of us. So even saying, do you like that? Does that feel good? And then having him say, yes, okay, good. That's validation I receive. That's him being vocal. I know it feels good in the moment. And we're both talking and panting and making noises, which means we're both enjoying the moment. So it's not about, at the beginning when you're trying to vocalize yourself, it's not trying to think of all these crazy fucking scenarios and things to say in your head. It's just about getting more comfortable with vocalizing what you want. And then the more comfortable you get with that, session after session, you're going to start saying these things that you never thought you would say because you're comfortable in saying them. You're comfortable in expressing yourself because of the feedback that you've received from your partner doing so. So know that it may feel a little awkward at first, and it may be a conscious effort to say, oh, that feels good, or even to let that moan out that you kind of are suppressing. But over time, it will get easier because you will be able to feel more comfortable and more self confident in doing so. And so just make sure that you allow yourself and give yourself the permission to vocalize during sex and take the pressure off of creating all of these crazy fucking scenarios that you have to say in your head, because that's not really what your partner wants. Or even if your partner wants to be more detailed and more specific, express to your partner, I need a little bit more time. I'm uncomfortable doing this. I'm a little shy doing this. So just give me some time to warm up. And the right partner will be like, absolutely, whatever you need, tell me. So since we've discussed being the person who's scared of dirty talk and vocalizing, let's talk on the other end of the spectrum. So if your partner is quiet during sex and you are like, oh my gosh, I want them to say more. I want them to like be more, but I don't want to make them feel bad, right? That's the biggest thing that I get from a lot of people is like, I love having sex with my partner. I wish they were more vocal, but I don't know how to bring it up without making them feel bad. Well, it's the same way. It's number one, discussing it outside of the bedroom. And so sitting here down with your partner and having a very relaxed conversation about it and saying something like, if you see it in a movie and a guy, two people are having sex and a guy says something, you could turn to your partner, or a girl says something, you turn to your partner and like, I really like that. That's sexy. I find that sexy. And then your partner will be like, oh yeah? Like, what do you find about it sexy? Or, oh yeah. And then you go, yeah, this is why I find it sexy. And so you can bring up the conversation outside of the bedroom or even sitting down and just being like, hey, I love having sex. It with you, it's incredible. Do you think we could like try to be a little bit more vocal during sex? Like I'll start telling you what I like and you tell me what you like. And I think that overall will improve our sex lives because we'll get to know each other a little bit more. I think it's a little bit more intimate, a little bit more raw and vulnerable. And I ultimately really want us to have great sex. And I think that this is the next level in order to achieve that. And your partner will be most likely very open to it. And if they're not, if they're like, well, okay, maybe I don't know about that, say, you know what, it's totally okay. What if we just like table this conversation, think about it, and like if you want to talk about it further, we can talk about it. Now, during the actual act, it is trying to, in a way, coach them to be more vocal. So, like I said before, if you are someone who is struggling with being vocal, sitting here and saying, like, oh, how does that feel to check in with your partner? That's the same way if you were the person who's a bit more vocal. So during sex, if your partner looks like they're enjoying themselves, don't be afraid to say, how does that feel, baby? Do you like that? Um, do you want me to go slower? Um, what rhythm do you like? Don't be afraid to kind of coach them and guide them into opening up a little bit more sexually, expressively, like being able to vocalize their wants and their desires. If you can see them like lying down and like kind of with their lips like kind of shut and tight, saying, baby, just open your mouth, let it out, let me hear you moan, right? Encouraging them to be more vocal while coaching them at the same time. Do you want me to go harder? Do you want me to go softer? Do you like that? And I know this sounds tedious in your head because you're like, oh, well, sex shouldn't be so thought out. Well, if you want your partner to be more vocal, it's going to require a conscious effort and a conscious thought as you're doing it in the beginning. It will eventually get to the point where your partner will feel comfortable enough, but you've got to kind of guide them through it because it is a vulnerable act. So if you're sitting here and your partner and you're having sex with your partner who's not very vocal and they let out a moan, or you say, how does that feel, baby? And they say, yes, that feels really good. Then your job is to empower and praise them after their vocal saying, "Oh my God, thank you for saying that. Oh, I love when you talk out loud. Oh my God, that made me so hard." Or, "Oh my God, that made me so wet. Keep going." Or, "I love when you talk to me during sex. I love when you say what feels good. I love when you moan." Like, praise the ever living shit out of your partner, because when they feel empowered, that's going to make them feel like they can open up even more. When they feel like what they are doing is causing this effect on you that is making you feral or making you even more in the moment, they're going to stop and they're going to think, "Oh my God, that's really sexy. Okay, they like this. Let me try this a little bit more." And they will slowly start to open up vocalizing during sex. And so it's about patience with your partners too when it comes to dirty talk, of recognizing that it is vulnerable and not everyone is, I don't want to say skilled or gifted in it, because I do believe that dirty talk is definitely an individual like preference based, and so every person has their own style of dirty talk that they're comfortable with. And so if you empower the other person to explore themselves, it's going to make them feel seen in that moment. It's going to make them feel valued, and it's going to make them feel powerful, because their words are doing this thing to you that just makes you so into them. So don't be afraid to empower and encourage your person, and also have a little patience. So if during the first session you get a few moans, like empower them. "Yeah, that's so sexy when you moan." And then after the session, be like, "I absolutely love when you moaned. That felt so good. I felt that in my soul. It was so sexy." Or if your partner says harder, sitting there and saying, "I love when you like guided me and told me to go harder. Like that made me feel like you were really in the moment. Thank you for doing that with me." Aftercare is a huge thing in the BDSM world. We have an entire article dedicated to it on smexed.com. But aftercare is basically just checking in with your partner after the act to make sure that they are emotionally stable and they feel okay. And it's checking in with them. It's the most simple, uncomplex thing in the entire world that we often forget to do after sex, but it changes relationships, because after a session, your partner is probably going to feel a little vulnerably raw, and they may feel a little awkward because they've never expressed themselves to you before, and all of a sudden they're expressing themselves to you. So reassuring them that you loved every second of it and empowering them to do more of it, and say, "Yeah, I would love if you did that again," or, "Anytime you want to express yourself to me that way, thank you. I love it. Keep it going." And encouraging that talk throughout the day, and even like when you're not in the session, right? Because we think all of this energy should just be applied to when we're having sex, but the best sex comes from constant effort in relationships to connect on an intimate level. So if your partner all of a sudden sends you a picture of herself in bra and underwear, or a really pretty dress, or just her outfit of the day, being there to encourage her and empower her and say, "Oh my God," or them, sorry, encourage them or empower them and saying, "God, you look sexy as hell. I love the way that looks on you. You look beautiful. Oh my God, that's incredible." You're empowering them, and then they feel more comfortable and more self-confident in themselves, which helps them open up to you sexually on a whole new level. Intimacy is in the bedroom, yes, but it is in everyday life as well. So dirty talk and dirty sexting is all very intimate. So constantly reassuring your partner, especially if you're doing it for foreplay during for foreplay during text messaging. If your partner is sending you a nude or a spicy text, reply to them. Don't ever leave them unopened, right? Don't ever open the text and then forget to send them something back, because you have to understand, once again, that's extremely vulnerable for them. Don't just send them a thumbs up emoji or a smiley face or a winky fucking bit emoji or whatever the hell they're called. Take the time and energy to reply back to them, because that's not empowering them when you do something like that. And when you do something like that, you're not encouraging them to continue to do it, because they're putting themselves out there on such a deep level for you to give a half-ass effort. Half-ass effort is never going to get you anywhere to the like level of sexual satisfaction you want. Really great sex comes from effort in and out of the bedroom. Really great sex comes from making your partner feel seen, wanted, valued, heard out of the bedroom just as much as in the bedroom. So during these moments, if your partner is messaging you, ensure that you are taking the fucking time to respond to them. And if for some reason you can't, you're busy sitting here and saying, oh my God, this is so sexy. I have like, I'm slammed at work, or I can't like respond to this. I don't have time right now, but I swear to God, the second I have time, I will message you back. Thank you for sending this. Do you know how like long of a way that will go with someone who just opened themselves up vulnerably to you? So just make sure that when you are doing this, recognizing the level of vulnerability, the level of intimacy, the level of trust that comes from dirty talk, and also giving yourself the permission to explore yourself through this avenue of sexual exploration. Yes, no, sexual expression. There we go. If you, what I think is really powerful about dirty talk is if you can get comfortable enough expressing yourself sexually in the bedroom, it causes a ripple effect on your life where you start feeling comfortable enough to express yourself out of the bedroom. When it helps you find your voice, because if you can find your voice during dirty talk, that is the scariest thing to fucking find your voice on. That will create a ripple effect where you will be able to speak up and stand up for yourself more often during other aspects of your life. It gives you the confidence to say no to those people who are always fucking overstepping your boundaries, or to check people who are being unemotionally available to you or stringing you along. It gives you the confidence to recognize that you deserve the world and you are worthy of all these good things. It all starts with expression, and sexual expression is the hardest expression to be able to do that on. So once you master that, or even get more comfortable, let's not even talk about mastering it. The more comfortable you get of expressing yourself sexually, the more comfortable you're going to get expressing yourself to this world. And so always remember, it's a vulnerable act. Dirty talk is incredible. It is something that should be explored. If you haven't explored it, remember that it's intimate. So just be careful who you share it with. Make sure they're the right person who can receive that dirty talk. If someone is giving you negative feedback during dirty talk, they obviously don't recognize the vulnerability that is required. And that is also up to you to be like, I don't like how that makes me feel, which is a big ask. But you have to recognize that your partner, it is a privilege for your partner to experience you expressing yourself sexually at that level. It's a fucking gift. It's a privilege and a gift. If they are not treating it as such, they do not deserve that gift, right? You are worthy of more than that. You are worthy of someone who can match that energy, express themselves back, and make you feel like a fucking powerhouse for doing it on your own. If someone does not bring it to that level, they do not deserve the gift of your vulnerability. Always remember that. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me on Snapchat, on Facebook, on Instagram. If you know someone who needs to hear this episode, go right ahead and share this episode. And as always, if you like the podcast and you like this episode, please go leave us a review on iTunes and Spotify. We always appreciate your feedback. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to Smex Ed with Amanda.
And some parting words for you today. Remember this: no matter how hard society pushes you down, no matter how many times you fall, as long as you get the fuck back up, they can never stop you. You are unfuckable with. You will win. Don't allow this world to dictate how you show up in it. Don't allow society to make you bend the knee. Instead, make them bend theirs. And don't forget, if you like what you heard, go on to iTunes and Spotify and leave your girl a review. Until next time, my beautiful people.